Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining the first ever DOE Office of Indian Energy virtual program review. Next slide, please. So by way of introduction, for those of you I have not met yet, my name is Lizana Pierce. I've been in the energy development arena for the last 25 plus years and have had the pleasure and privilege of working with Indian tribes, including Alaska Native villages, with their energy development for over 20 years. I'm a mechanical engineer by degree, and I pursued an MBA. In my current position as deployment supervisor, I support the office by executing the deployment program, comprised of financial assistance through competitive grants, technical assistance, which is offered at no charge to tribes and tribal entities, and education and outreach. Additionally, I manage the national funding opportunity announcements and act as project officer for some of the resulting grants and agreements, and implement the outreach through our website, email, newsletters, and oversee the support from our laboratory partners. And so in the picture in the lower left, I wanted to highlight James. James is second, James Jensen, the second from the left at the bottom of the picture. He'll be helping moderate the questions at the end of the session. By the way, I pulled that up this morning, and that picture was taken in February at the Seminole Tribe of Florida's third annual Renewable Energy and Sustainability Conference in February of this year. And if I recall correctly, we went on semi-permanent telework right after the RES conference in March. So next slide, please. So next, I want to introduce the newest member of our federal team, Dr. Tommy Jones. Tommy Jones from Jones, Oklahoma. Yes, Tommy Jones from Jones, Oklahoma. I'll say that again. I think it's funny. But Tommy is an enrolled citizen of the Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma, Naknek Village Council, and a native shareholder of Bristol Bay Native Corporation of Alaska. Dr. Jones first joined the office as an intern while finishing his PhD in natural resource studies in his dissertation, which analyzed the barriers to renewable energy development on tribal lands. Since then, he has supported the office in Golden, Colorado as a contractor and recently joined us as a federal employee. Tommy will be helping us stay on time today and will provide the presenters a 5-minute reminder 15 minutes into your presentation. Tommy, you want to just say a few words, do a voice check here?
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining. This is a new event for us to have online, but we're thankful that we're able to do it to get everyone together and to share the collective knowledge that everyone has across the nation. As Lizana mentioned, I will step in when there's 5 minutes remaining in your presentation, and I'll say 5 minutes remaining. And so it might throw you off a little bit, but it's coming, and just so we can stay on time today, so we can fit everyone in. And then when it gets to 20 minutes, I'll step in and say, please finish in a minute or so. But again, thanks everyone for attending, and let's have another great day.
Thank you, Tommy. Next slide, please. So next, I'd like to introduce Ms. Tweety Doe, another member of our team. She is duty stationed with me in Golden, Colorado. We're actually co-located with the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. Tweety is a project officer for many of the projects you'll hear about this week. And as a project officer, Ms. Doe, yes, D-O-E, Doe, again, I think that's funny, administers financial assistance awards to Indian tribes, Alaska Native villages, and tribal and intertribal organizations. Before joining the Office of Indian Energy, Tweety served for 8 years with the DOE's Office of Energy Efficiency Renewable Energy, EERE, as a project officer under the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program, if you all remember the Recovery Act back in 2008-ish. And as a project management analyst with the Project Management Coordination Office after that. Before joining DOE, Tweety had the privilege of working with the Council of Energy Resource Tribes, or CERT, many of you may remember David Lester, where she gained valuable experience working with tribal leaders on energy resource planning and management, and the understanding that tribal communities have diverse needs, resources, and visions. So I first met Tweety when she was with CERT, and I think one of the most sort of the resounding thing from David Lester, who said many resounding things that I've tried to remember, is if you met one tribe, you met one tribe. And I think that's so true, even after these many, many years, that everyone's unique, different challenges, different successes, different visions, energy visions, and so forth. So Ms. Doe has a Bachelor's of Arts degree in Political Science at the University of Washington and a Master's of Arts in International Studies with an emphasis on economics and human rights from the University of Denver. She obtained her project management professional certification, the PMP, in 2013, very prestigious. She's also a certified project officer and contracting officer representative. Tweety will be helping moderate some of the sessions today and throughout the week. Next slide, please. So before we get too far down, I wanted to provide some information on the office and the rest of our team. We covered this on Monday as part of the program overview, but I'm going to go over it again for those who were not able to join us then. So the Office of Indian Energy currently has 9 federal employees, more than twice as many as we had last November at the program review in Lakewood. 4 of those in Washington, D.C., director, and 3 in Colorado, Tweety, Tommy, and myself, and 2 in Alaska. We also have contractor support, a couple folks at headquarters, administrative folks, to help Director Frost. And we have 6 in Colorado now supporting financial assistance, grants, and agreements. And of course, we support financial assistance from Colorado across all of the nation, from Alaska from coast to coast. So also, we get support from the Golden Field office, which is also we are co-located with. We get procurement, legal, and NEPA support from DOE's Golden Field office. Next slide, please. So just wanted to make sure that, faces are important, and some of you we've met, some of you on the phone we may not have. So in this picture, which again was taken last November's program review, so not everybody's in it, we have in the back row James Jensen and Chris Venema, both contractor support to the deployment program from Colorado. Next, we have Gibby Kokanowski, federal staff member, duty stationed in Anchorage. And next to Gibby is Director Frost, who's located in Washington, D.C. In the front row, we have Jamie Alley on the far left, myself, Jen Luna, who's team lead for the contractor staff in Colorado. Next to Janice Tweety Doe, and the DOE project officer. Again, she's duty stationed with me in Colorado. Next to Tweety is Susan Manley, contractor staff support in Colorado. And next is Jasmine Anderson, who supports Director Frost as a contractor in D.C. And on the far right is Tommy Jones. So as this picture was taken at last November's program review in Lakewood, Colorado, it does not include those who've joined us since. So I want to give you a little perspective there. Since last November, Gibby Kokanowski has taken a senior policy advisor position. He does remain duty stationed in Alaska. Gibby was recently joined by Alan Verbitsky, not shown in the picture. Alan is an engineer with a wealth of knowledge, not only in energy and energy systems, a wide portfolio, but also experience working with Alaska Native villages. And since joining the office, he's returned home to Alaska and resides in Anchorage. Brant Petrasic, who's not shown either, previously with DOE's Office of Environmental Management, has a history of working with tribes and joined as a senior advisor in duty station in Washington, D.C. So Director Frost, shown in the back row, second from the right, has also been joined in D.C. by Quintella Wilson, our budget officer, and Paulette Toole, our new management analyst. Neither of them are shown. In a very recent addition, as I said earlier, to our office is Dr. Tommy Jones, and he's shown on the far right. Dr. Jones started as an intern, as I said, while he was finishing his PhD, and just recently, just barely, not even a month, joined us as a federal staff member in Colorado as a deployment specialist. On the contractor side, not shown, is Jessica Becker, who joined the deployment team in Colorado as a project monitor supporting financial assistance grants and agreements across the nation. Next slide, please. So before we jump into the project presentation, let's go over some event details. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be made available on the DOE Office of Indian Energy Policy and Programs website in a couple of weeks. Copies of the presentation slides will be posted again also to the Office of Indian Energy's website shortly. Everyone will receive a post-event email with the link to the page where the slides and the recordings will be located. Because we are recording the webinar, all phones have been muted. We will answer your written questions at the end of the final presentation of this session. You can submit a question at any time by clicking on the question button located in the webinar control box on your screen and typing in your questions. For presenters, please ensure you are muted when not presenting, and be aware that because we are on a tight timeline, we will provide you a 5-minute verbal reminder 15 minutes into your presentation. Please plan your time accordingly. As we will need to move on to the next presenter at 20 minutes into your presentation. Again, we will be responding to questions received after the last presentation scheduled for the session. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tweety to introduce our presentations for this session, as well as a brief overview of the purpose of the program review. Next slide, please. And Tweety, you're on.
Well, hello, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Welcome and welcome back to day 2 of our virtual program review. The purpose of our annual program review is to hear from our grant recipients, report on their projects, and it is a requirement of accepting a grant from the Office of Indian Energy. Our presenters will provide updates and lessons learned from their projects with us. In normal times, our program review provides an ideal opportunity for networking over breaks and lunch. In this virtual environment, we invite you to listen and think about one thing that stands out to you and ask questions or provide feedback to our presenters using the chat function that Lizana talked about to submit your questions. Yesterday, in our 3 sessions, we heard from Ute Mountain Ute, Spokane Housing Authority, Akwesasne Housing Authority, Philandro Sante Sioux Tribe, Oneida Indian Nation of New York, Coeur d'Alene Tribe, and all the way from Alaska, we heard from Husia Tribal Council, Hughes Village Council, and Alaska Village Electric Cooperative. In this session 4, we will hear from 3 grant recipients, Tolowa Dee-ni, Assiniboine Sioux Tribes of the Fort Peck Indian Reservation, and hopefully Bishop Paiute Tribe. And then following the 3 presentations, we will respond to your questions and comments. All right, first up is Jesse Nolan. Jesse will tell us about Tolowa Dee-ni's solar PV project at the Rowdy Creek Fish Hatchery. Jesse, are you ready?
Yes, I am. I hope you can all hear me. Unfortunately, my cell service at my house is kind of weak, so I opted to go through the computer audio. So again, hopefully everyone can. Okay.
We can hear you. Thanks, Jesse.
Great. So yeah, hello everybody. My name is Jesse Nolan. I am a tribal resource specialist in the Tolowa Dee-ni Nation's Natural Resource Department. Today I'm going to be presenting our DOE project titled Renewable Solar Energy at Rowdy Creek Fish Hatchery. First, I'd like to start off with a little background information about the Tolowa Dee-ni Nation and the Rowdy Creek Fish Hatchery. The Tolowa Dee-ni Nation, which we refer to as TDN for short, was formerly known as the Smith River Rancheria. The nation is a federally recognized and self-governing tribe of Tolowa Dee-ni people. The Tolowa Dee-ni Nation Reservation, located in northwestern California, is situated on the Pacific Ocean and the lower Smith River. On June 1st, 2017, the elected 7-person TDN Tribal Council adopted a motion to accept the following mission statement as a guiding principle for TDN's 2018 to 2022 strategic plan. Quote, to exert and protect the inherent sovereignty endowed upon the Tolowa Dee-ni Nation to promote our tribal identity and the well-being of our people, community, and environment by building a strong foundation, managing resources, and perpetuating our cultural lifeways and legacy. Next slide, please. Here's a map showing the TDN's Aboriginal territory, or Tolowa Dee-ni, which stretches along the Pacific coast from Wilson Creek in Del Norte County, California, north to the Sixes River in Oregon, east to the Applegate River drainage, and west to the sea stacks off the coast. TDN's reservation is characterized by a fragmented patchwork of land parcels within California's Del Norte County and has increased in size from 4 acres to almost 900 acres since the 1980s. Next slide, please. So this clause here shows some of the traditional foods that are and have been staples of the tribal diet for the Tolowa Dee-ni people. Given that the ancestral lands fronted both fresh and salt water, the diet includes many species of fish, shellfish, and other invertebrates. Salmon, steelhead, and lamprey were harvested from the river, while surf smelt, crab, and clams were part of the ocean's bounty. Next slide, please. The nation's Nunust Ata Natural Resources Department houses the primary scientific data collectors and technical advisors for issues and management decisions pertaining to TDN's trust resources within the Tolowa Dee-ni. This includes monitoring and management of water quality, terrestrial and aquatic habitats, fisheries, wildlife, and marine resources. Within the Natural Resource Department, the Fisheries Program is tasked with monitoring the anadromous fish populations within the Smith River, as well as overseeing operations at the Rowdy Creek Fish Hatchery. Next slide, please. The hatchery was constructed in the early 1970s by an ambitious group of local Kiwanis who were concerned by a perceived decline in the river's fisheries following catastrophic flooding that occurred in 1964. The first hatchery plants were made in, the first hatchery Chinook plants were made in 1973, and the first hatchery steelhead plants were made in 1983. Numbers of fish produced have fluctuated through the years, but the hatchery has been producing fish continuously for 47 years. Rowdy Creek Fish Hatchery operates as one of only 2 private nonprofit hatcheries in California. The hatchery is operated by a collaboration between the Tolowa Dee-ni Nation and the Rowdy Creek Fish Hatchery Board of Directors. The board maintains a 501c3 nonprofit status and is tasked with raising funds for operations by hosting an annual dinner as well as an annual steelhead fishing derby. The Tolowa Dee-ni Nation purchased the land and the hatchery facilities in 2012. They maintain a quorum on the hatchery board, and they provide technical expertise as well as hands-on labor. Under TDN Tribal Resolution 10-12, the hatchery was established as a tribal organization to promote tribal environmental stewardship, to support and promote the historical, customary, cultural, and economic practices of the tribe. TDN is working with funding and regulatory agencies to upgrade the 50-year-old hatchery facilities to provide volitional, juvenile, and adult fish passage and improve water conservation. Rowdy Creek Fish Hatchery has 2 integrated hatchery programs that produce Chinook salmon and steelhead trout for tribal subsistence harvest, to enhance recreational fishing opportunities in the Smith River, to stimulate tribal and county economic development, and to provide an avenue for environmental education to area schools as well as to the general public. Next slide, please. The hatchery is located on Rowdy Creek, a major tributary of the Smith River. The hatchery property is adjacent to US Highway 101, the major north-south artery for traffic in coastal Northern California and Western Oregon. The hatchery, in non-COVID times, is a popular stop for tourists as they travel through the area. Compared to state and federal hatcheries that produce millions of juvenile salmonids, ours is a small operation that currently produces less than 100,000 juveniles per year. Next slide, please. The hatchery supplies salmon for salmon in the classroom curriculum for local schools, eggs and special aquaria outfitted with chillers to keep the water cooler supplied to participate in classes. Kids learn about the salmon life cycle and get to watch as the eggs hatch into juvenile fish. The kids then take a field trip to the river where the fish are released. The hatchery, being a nonprofit, has a tight budget, a large part of which was needed to pay the electric bill. The annual electric bill fluctuates in tandem with the numbers of fish that are produced at the hatchery, but averages approximately $25,000 to $30,000 per year. Installation of a solar system offers a reduction in operational cost incurred at the hatchery, while also making the hatchery a better environmental steward. Next slide, please. So these are just a couple pictures of operations at our hatchery. Next slide, please. Finally, onto the project itself. The nation, in partnership with the Rowdy Creek Fish Hatchery Board of Directors, using a grant from DOE's Office of Indian Energy, proposed to outfit the hatchery with a solar system capable of producing up to 113 kilowatts of DC power, which represents 80% of the hatchery's power needs. This system would consist of 28 roof-mounted solar panels, 284 panels on 6 different ground-mounted solar arrays, and an electric balance of system component between the arrays and the photovoltaic inverters. After project completion, landscaping would be used to impede vegetative growth beneath the arrays, and also to minimize potential sediment transport and runoff due to the land disturbance caused by the project. Next slide, please. Here's the project schematic drafted by our solar contractor, Greenwired, showing an aerial view of the hatchery property and the location of the panels. The roof-mounted panels are on one of the hatchery sheds, which is the cluster just above the center of the schematic. The ground-mounted panels on racks, which represent the majority of the system, are shown as a group of 3 to the left and a group of 3 to the right. Next slide, please. After receiving notice that our project was funded, we got right to work by completing a biological assessment, getting an elevation certificate submitted, hiring a contractor to design and then build the solar system, get our fiscal ducks in a row, and keep tribal council apprised of the project's progress. Next slide, please. The second phase of the project included getting the contractor to submit a final detailed bid and a specific timeline for project construction and completion, and then the issuance of a formal contract upon receipt of the bid/timeline. The third step in the process consisted of submission of our building permit to the county and then receiving the subsequent approval, as well as submitting an interconnection application to our utility provider, Pacific Power, which is needed to tie the system into the grid, and which was subsequently approved. Next slide, please. The fourth task on our project timeline was to get the site ready for installation. This involved bringing in equipment to dig the trenches needed for the ground-mounted rack systems, as well as to bury conduit that would run the power from the arrays to the inverters, and then from the inverters to the main power connect/shut-off throw switch. Next slide, please. The contractor finished the solar system and we went operational on May 4th of 2020. Here are a couple pics of showing the system components. The project went fairly smoothly and the contractor did a great job of building the system as specified. Next slide, please. As part of our grant, we promised to monitor the system for 12 months. The contractor, Greenwired, set us up with a SolarEdge monitoring account. The monitoring platform that SolarEdge provides is both intuitive and informative, allowing users to track solar power production on a daily, monthly, and yearly basis. In addition to displaying system power output, the Layout tab provides information about each panel in the system, allowing users to troubleshoot problems down to the individual panel. While we have not yet encountered any problems with our system, the ability to identify the location of the problem panels certainly lessen the time needed to rectify any problems that arise. Additionally, the SolarEdge monitoring platform calculates the CO2 emissions saved by using solar over conventional grid power, and also displays the equivalent number of trees planted that the system provides by producing cleaner energy. Next slide, please. As of December 1st, our system has offset the equivalent of 154,000 pounds of CO2. I found an online calculator posted by the EPA that shows the carbon offsets in a relatable manner. I like the coal equivalent, nearly 75,000 pounds saved, and the cell phones charged, over 8.5 million charges. Next slide, please. According to the Solar Edge platform, as of December 1st, our hatchery solar project has resulted in the equivalent of 1,169 trees planted. While the number of trees in an acre of healthy forest varies by forest type, I found that in a typical northwestern forest, there are approximately 50 to 150 trees per acre. Using these figures, I calculated that our solar has created roughly 15 acres of forest, and that is just for the first 7 months of the project. Next slide, please. In addition to the environmental benefits of the project, the financial incentives of switching to solar are immense. For a small hatchery that relies heavily on community fundraising, the ability to cut our electric bills down has been great. Next slide, please. So here's a graph that displays electric bills for the hatchery going back to late December 2018. Power usage at the hatchery fluctuates during the year due to changes in pump operations, both at our water diversions, as well as the pumps that are used to move water throughout the hatchery facility. Power bills are also directly related to how many fish we are currently rearing, as the energy required to pump water through the facility increases as the number of fish increase. We've raised fewer fish the last 3 years as our water supply, Rowdy Creek, has been lower than average due to the ongoing drought that we're experiencing. The average power bill during 2019 was $1,407. And after solar installation, we have seen the average bill drop to $80. Next slide, please. So this slide here shows the average electrical cost per day to operate the hatchery, which has seen a precipitous drop since the solar system install. The 2019-2020 average cost per day prior to solar was $42.95. Post-solar, it's dropped to $2.57. While the data used to generate these estimates is not conclusive, as we'll need to monitor how the system performs over the winter, it's clear that the system has significantly reduced the hatchery electric bill. Next slide, please. For the months where we do have pre and post solar electric bills to compare, the results are convincing. This graphic displays the electric cost for billing periods spanning May through October for 2019 on the left and 2020 on the right. While the solar power produced in winter is likely going to represent a smaller portion of the energy demand at the hatchery, the savings during the spring, summer, and fall months certainly validates the project. Next slide, please. Here's the nitty-gritty financials in a non-graphical format. The 2019 electric bill totaled $16,888. The estimated annual cost for electricity at the hatchery moving forward, based on the available cost per day data derived from the months since the system went into operation, is $938. The actual cost is likely to be higher, but the savings are sure to be sizable. Using the numbers available, the hatchery can expect to save nearly $16,000 per year. Next slide, please.
Pardon the interruption, you have 5 minutes remaining.
The money saved by switching to solar can be redirected to other hatchery needs. Two of the biggest expenditures at the hatchery are the purchase of fish food and payroll for our hatchery staff. Let's look at fish food first. The hatchery currently spends about $750 per year on fish food. And if we were to use the nearly $16,000 in savings number from the previous slide, we could purchase a 21-year supply of fish food with the savings from less than 1 year of solar. Conversely, we could use the savings to cover payroll. Given that we are a nonprofit that relies on donations and fundraisers, you never know how far the budget can be stretched as we aren't guaranteed any funds. The nearly $16,000 savings could cover payroll for nearly 3.5 months. Next slide, please. This slide is just a quick rundown of the project partners and how they contributed to project completion. The Tolowa Dee-ni Nation obtained and administered the grant from DOE, prepared the site by bringing in equipment and labor, and will assist in maintaining and monitoring the system. The hatchery staff provided site-specific knowledge and will assist in maintaining the system. Our contractor, Greenwire, designed and constructed the system, assisted with the permitting and application process, and coordinated with Pacific Power to obtain the interconnection agreement. Next slide, please. So special thanks to both the Bureau of Indian Affairs, who provided partial funds for this project through their Tribal Fish Hatchery Maintenance Program, as well as to the Department of Energy and their Office of Indian Energy. And that's all I've got, folks.
Sounds like Tweety's having trouble.
Can you hear me okay?
That's better, Tweety. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry, my wireless service is not the best here also, so I understand, Jesse, your challenge also. I wanted to say, I don't know if you heard me, but thank you so much, Jesse, for stepping in. That was a great presentation on that project. Next, we have Deb Madison and Terry Sickett, who will share updates on the Fort Peck Tribe's Wellness Center Energy Project. Take it over, Deb and Terry.
Okay, this is Deb up here in Poplar, Montana, and I've got Terry joining me as well, and Terry's going to probably go through the finer details of this project. This is the Assiniboine Sioux Tribes Fort Peck Wellness Center Energy Project. And a little background about Fort Peck, if I can get to the next slide, please. It's located in extreme northeastern Montana. That's a picture of the Missouri River, and then the tribe's buffalo herd in the southern half. You can see the plains and the gently rolling hills. It's a 2.1 million acres with a checkerboard land pattern. It's home to two tribes, the Assiniboine and the Sioux. We have about 11,000 members, and 6,700 live on the reservation. So the Wellness Center is a multidisciplinary activity center. So it's going to incorporate a lot of different kinds of activities, including physical therapy, a pool, a large gym area, as well as a clinical area, and sort of a commons area as well for seniors and some other folks. It was initiated in 2012 by the Health Promotion Disease Prevention Program. And it got off to kind of a rocky start. So the tribes established this construction advisory team, of which I'm a member, in 2008 to try to get this thing off the ground and actually built. And it consists of folks that are both within the tribes, obviously, and it's multidisciplinary. Next slide, please. So it includes the planning office, has 2 representatives, the tribe secretary accountant, who's built a number of structures on the reservation over the last 40 years. The environmental office, just because there's some phase 1 and phase 2 considerations. Legal representation, we have 2 representatives from our legal staff. The health prevention staff has 6 representatives, and the road department, because they're always involved with whenever you talk about paving and structures like that. And then minerals, and that's me. Next slide. So the CAT deliverables included getting the civil engineering services secured. We also advertised and selected for our architectural firm, which is JGA, and that's who Terry works for. And he'll be doing the rest of this presentation. We reviewed a multitude of funding options. We also determined what this building should incorporate. We used, students from the high school, physical therapists. We brought in all kinds of people to sort of help us determine the size of this footprint and what amenities should be included in the building. The CAT team supported green infrastructure options, including the submission of this DOE grant, which the CAT team actually funded because it was kind of an effort to get this grant written. And then we also secured tribal executive board support through information sharing and public outreach, as we heard the previous presenter discuss. So the tribes had some experience with other green infrastructure projects, including our partners, including the partner DOE, obviously. One is this model green tribal community that the tribes supported. I think that model green tribal community is now almost 10 years old. We also, and through that, we secured these ground source heat pumps grant and installed it at the adult correctional facility in 8 tribal homes. We also have we rehab the cultural center for increased installation and lighting efficiencies. And then we did energy efficient lighting and installed it on the phase 3 of the tribal headquarters and our new community centers. We have a ground source heat pump in this new building as well. That's where I'm at today, is at the office. And we also have a sustainable village in a partnership with Make It Right Foundation, where we built 20 homes using sustainable practices and high energy efficiency in that particular village. Next slide, please. I don't want to steal all his thunder. Okay, Terry, do you want to go from here, or do you want me just to run this down? Terry?
Excuse me, I'm trying to unmute myself. Deb, you can continue on this slide, and then we'll get to the project.
Okay. Perfect. So after we reviewed the project and submitted it to the electrical engineers for their discussion and their ideas, we came up with 2 objectives, and that's to install the kilowatt solar PVS system by the end of the 21st month. And the second one was to reduce utility bills by installing energy efficiency measures by the end of the 21st month as well. So baseline assumptions, electric usage is approximately 900,000 kilowatts per year. Natural gas, which is a big source of our heat, 65,000 therms per year based on the package VAC system that we had selected. So our total expected utility cost is about $109,000 a year. We expected to save, though, with the solar array of about $6,000 and then $26,000 with the lighting and the HVAC EEMs for a total utility cost saving of about $31,561 per year. And that's pretty good, because remember, it gets really cold up here. We can have lows as low as 20 below, and then you add a little wind chill, you can get into the 50, 60 below zero up here pretty easy. And in the summers, we can get up well into the upper 90s to low 100s. So we have all these variables, makes it a little bit challenging to save a whole lot of energy, but a 29% annual reduction is pretty significant for this part of the country. Next slide. And there you go, Terry, I'll let you go.
All right, Deb, thank you, and appreciate everybody's listening to us today and talking about the project. As Deb mentioned, we are, or as we presented last year at your program, we were still in design. We have since finished design, had the project bid, and are now in the middle of month number 6 of construction. So we'll begin to see where we are and some photos and things like that here in a bit. But developing the project pre-grant, we did do a detailed energy simulation model, and our mechanical engineers and the energy modeling company gave us great input on a number of possibilities for EEMs. There were 15 options considered. Actually, there was probably more like 20 options considered when we looked at it, but 15 seriously, 8 options selected based on our payback and time frames. And you can kind of see the simple building schematic that came out of the computer model. We're utilizing skylights for natural lighting in some very key areas that we'll be able to see. And we spent a lot of time studying the building envelope, and we'll look at some of those photos as well. Next slide. The EEMs that were selected, we were specifically targeting things that we could generate great paybacks on. This spreadsheet shows those items. The significant ones are in the light blue: improved windows, improved skylights, high efficiency lighting, the LED packages plus controls, utilizing high efficiency DX in the air handling units, providing high efficiency boilers, providing Some enhancements for the pools. As you can imagine, there's a lot of energy use there, providing the pools with specific heat recovery systems, high efficiency condensing boilers for the pool, and then most importantly, devising and detailing a specific electric operated pool cover system so that it will be easy for the folks to keep the covers on when they need to be on and get them off easily going forward. So those are the EEMs that we receive grants for and are in the process of initiating now. Next slide. You can see the solar arrays for energy generation is it's a bit of a separate energy efficiency means, but we've designed the building with some raised sections on the core areas, those slope roof areas where the skylights were in that previous image. Will have the solar voltaic panels systems on that Deb spoke of, and those will provide a great deal of energy for the project. Next slide. We went over these last year in terms of CO2 equivalents, looking at the EEMs and the panels and looking at the savings of 268 tons of CO2 equivalent, and you can kind of see some of the conversions that we made last year to those, including about 293,000 pounds of coal and 621 barrels of oil consumed. So as Deb said, the savings in utility costs in this area are going to be a significant bonus for the project. Next slide. Kind of see our basic layout of the building on the site. We do have some significant areas of parking. We did also consider covering a lot of that parking with solar voltaic panels, and that would give us some covering and protection from certain types of weather that we have occasionally and such. But the development of that much power was problematic working with the power company and the grid. So we're just limited to what we're putting on the building. Next slide. As Deb mentioned, the building has the pool area, the blue areas. There's actually 3 pools. You can see the large exercise area. And then on the lower part of the plan, the right and left are the consultation and treatment areas for the wellness program, and the area in the core there is that is the entry, common space. All of those things within the core are covered with some of the solar panels, or the skylights to allow for natural lighting to come into those. This is the first floor plan. Next slide. You can see again in the core area, the green area is the wellness exercise areas. We also have adjacent to that and around the gym area is a running, walking track to allow a great deal of utilization for year-round exercise, early and late in day operations, things like that, and such. So we've got a great deal of natural lighting flooding into these spaces through those skylights and so forth. Next slide. Kind of see some of the interior views we showed last year. Again, the skylights will allow for a great reduction in daytime lighting and also provide for just a nice natural feel within these spaces. Next slide. Looking from a balcony down towards the main entry of the facility. The actual metal roofs that you see in there have been reduced significantly since the project was completed, so there will be a little bit of a difference there. But you can see looking towards the entry to the south, there we have our front entry as you drive up. You're okay. Keep rolling. Next slide. There we go. So we'll have a little bit of covering in the front there, and you can see the sloped roofs up above there. Next slide. Again, just another view of the front of the building. Talk a little bit about our exterior wall systems and some things learned there. It's very important to keep the contractor under observation, carefully looking at the installation of the wall assemblies to make sure that when we get this project built, that we have the air infiltration protections that we expected in our designs and that match the computer model, those kind of things. Next slide. Rear of the building, again, where we didn't need a lot of windows, we didn't have them, that's the north side. Next slide. So current status of our construction, as I mentioned, we're 6 months in on a 17-month schedule. We've done a lot of our EEM procurement stuff to this point. There's really been reviewing of shop drawing submittals from the contractor and subcontractors. Some equipment has been ordered and some of the material has been ordered. We have at this point the contractor well into structural steel framing and exterior wall constructions. So we'll see those things in a minute. But I really don't have.
You have 5 minutes remaining.
Great, thank you. We have none of our EEMs are installed at this point, but as I mentioned, our envelope framing is under construction. We're keeping a very close watch on that, and it's been a fairly interesting twist with the COVID precautions and making sure that we can keep the project construction ongoing. So we'll get to some photos. Next slide. Here we can see that upper deck where the exercise area is that I talked about. Actually, I wish I had slides from this week because they're a lot further along with the framing, but we'll have those steel trusses exposed. You'll see the skylights and you'll end up with just a very nice space within the context of that. You can kind of see some of the other angles of that second floor framing area. Next, yeah, just this is pretty much typical of where we are. You can see on the lower left quadrant there, we have exterior walls framed. Some of those walls are getting the insulated sheathing on the outside, and the contractor's gone a lot further with that. Our focus right now is to get the second floor slabs poured, but given the fact that we've already had temperatures well below zero, we've got to complete the box, if you will. The environment needs to be enclosed, and we need to get all of our wall panels up so that the temporary heating can occur, so we can get things going, keep the project going. Next slide. You can kind of see from the ground view on the upper left, some of that insulation and sheathing, air barriers, very important. Upper right, we have roofing going down and the layering of vapor barrier insulations and cover boards to really get that R value of the roof assemblies into the R40s, 49, I believe it is. Yeah, just some views of the project coming together. You'll see just the various conditions at this point. It has been a bit of a challenge weather-wise, but our contractor is really pushing to keep things on track. You see the outline of that running track I spoke of in the gym, that structural steel kind of going around the edges. That'll be a really big benefit. And we have just a couple of views. That's the back side of the building. Next slide. There we go. You start to see the progress that's been made to date. It's been great, and we have had some weather impacts, but not significant. Next slide. There's our 17-month schedule. I won't go into that in any detail at this point, other than we are moving. So there we have it. That's all we have. I'd like to thank you for your time.
Great, thank you so much. And just to check, anyone can let me know, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I love seeing those pictures and your progress, and we'd love to get more pictures from you in future quarterly reports when you have them. Okay, to wrap up session 4, we have Brian Atkins, who will present on the Bishop Paiute's Residential Solar Program Phase 3. All yours, Brian, for the next 20 minutes anyway. You're on.
Well, welcome, Manahu, and good morning. My name is Brian Atkins. I'm the Environmental Director for the Bishop Paiute Tribe. The Bishop Paiute Tribe, next slide, please. The Bishop Paiute Tribe is located in the Eastern Sierra region of California, kind of near up against Nevada on the east. The Paiutes are descendant of the Numu of the Owens Valley. There's 4 other tribes in the Owens Valley sharing the valley with the Bishop Tribe. That they have Aboriginal lands, or Aboriginal lands go into Mono Basin to the north. Some of you might have heard of Mono Lake. That's about 50 miles to the north of us. And we're kind of equidistant between Death Valley and Yosemite Valley. Could you go back just quickly? Yeah, thanks. Yeah, our energy demand for, so we're 875 acre reservation. Our energy demand is mainly residential. We have community and governmental facilities. We have a small preschool and normal water and public works type demands, as well as a small casino and a small museum. Next slide, please. The Bishop Reservation was created in 1939 by a land exchange with the federal government. Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, 879 acres. We're the 3rd largest by population tribe in California, I believe, population 2,000. And we're about 80% low to moderate income in income. Next slide, please. So our energy vision several years ago, with the assistance of Department of Energy and National Renewable Energy Laboratory, we were able to do a collaborative energy strategic plan. Within our energy vision, we outlined to try to continue moving towards renewable energy, sustainable practices, protecting our environment. We're the Environmental Management Office, and preserve our cultural traditions. So it's, next slide, please. Within that strategic energy plan, we identified within the solar, we have an incredible solar resource here with quite a few sunny days here. It's sunny quite a bit here. And we have 490 single family homes that were identified to be potentially solarable through rooftop solarization, photovoltaic, with a low income qualification rate of about 80% with the state program that I'm just about to describe to you. We figured we had about 400 potential eligible households. By 2020, we made a goal to try to serve half of those. And you'll see how far we've come in the next couple slides. Next slide, please. So what we're about to introduce to you is Grid Alternatives. Some of you might have heard of Grid Alternatives. They're a nonprofit bringing solar photovoltaics to low-income households. And several years ago in 2015, we established a partnership with them. And it's been a really positive partnership. One of the things, the tribe has a tribal employment rights office, as I know a lot of tribes do, TARO office. One of the things that Grid and TARO share together in tribal country here is employment rights and training. It's specifically with Grid rooftop training, learning how to install these photovoltaic systems. So that made a really good match with our project and with our particular situation. Next slide, please. So I would like to hand this over to, is Lisa Castellone on the line from GRID? Okay, so
Monica, hang on. Monica, I think she's an attendee. She may have to convert her to a participant in order to have her involved.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
we can
Okay,
hear you,
thanks.
Lisa.
All right, perfect. Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for this wonderful opportunity. As Brian was mentioned, we've got a pretty long-standing partnership with the Bishop Paiute Tribe, and we've been very successful in accomplishing some of our goals. So at Grid Alternatives, we are the nation's largest solar nonprofit. We have regional offices across the United States. We've installed to date over 28 megawatts of solar, and we provide solar solutions for underserved communities. So we work in tribal nations. We've actually served over 43 tribal nations across the country. We have a national tribal program, and we have over 17 kilowatts of solar installed across the United States. Our workforce development model, we've trained, and that's one of the key parts of our program, is that we bring in job training. So we're actually working with tribes and residents to actually train and bring solar. So people are getting this hands-on experience. And we've been able to train over 45,000 people in our training program, which brings an economic and environmental benefit to over $440 million worth of clean energy renewable savings. Next slide, please. And I want to pause just to say that all the photos in our slideshow are from the Bishop Paiute solar projects, and the people that you see in the slides are GRID staff and the job trainees, the tribal trainees that we work with. So California, we have what we call GRID Alternatives has the SASH funding through the state. We're managing the state program, and we've had SASH funding for 2 rounds where we have funding for these projects. And SASH 2 only provided half of the funding, so the partnership with the DOE has been pivotal in getting these projects to full construction with no cost to the residents. So our model is people, planet, and employment. We serve low-income families exclusively. It works very well in tribal nations because the land is in trust. So here in California, all of those tribes can qualify for our program that are in the utilities that we serve. The planet, we're installing these grid-tied electric systems to reduce energy bills and reduce emissions. And then employment is a real key part to our program. We have this turnkey hands-on solar job training model that folks can come out and actually work. They can get certificates, and they can be on a pathway to employment. And oftentimes that's in our tribal communities. We've led folks from training to employment, which is key to what we're working with the Tarot department. Next slide, please. So at GRID, we have provided the review of the tribal energy goals. So we're not going in and bringing this, and we're working alongside of the tribal nations. We provide the outreach with the application, the applicants, so the homeowners themselves we're working directly with. We provide, like I mentioned, the training. Anybody over 16 can train with us. They have to be 18 and older to go up on the roof with us. And as Brian mentioned, we work with the Tarot compliance, and we provide third-party inspection. So we're ensuring that our work is up to code and everything meets the standards for solar installation. The tribe has provided an MOU, so we have a formal partnership. They assist us with reaching out to the families. Oftentimes in tribal nations, you just can't go into a community to identify who can qualify. So the outreach has been key. The Tarot department, as well as the environmental department, have been key in identifying volunteers and trainees that we can work with. The tribe has been very generous with in-kind donations to support our work, and then we have collaborated on many grants and other funding opportunities. Next slide, please. So with the outreach, it actually is very much a turnkey program. We take everybody from the application stage all the way to the installation. We provide homeowners with all the information about their solar. The job training, we actually have our solar installation supervisors. We slow our projects down. We're explaining things. Folks are getting up on the roof. They're pulling tape measures. They're drilling. It's very hands-on and really a wonderful opportunity to get the full scope of solar. They're doing everything from the roof work to the groundwork. And as I mentioned, we provide the third-party inspections. We take care of all the interconnection paperwork with the utilities. And then we guide the homeowners with, after the system is installed, we provide extended warranties. And we give them packets and review their electric bills and answer all of those questions that people have about getting solar on their home and what that means. We're also helping with providing monitoring and data to the tribe for the systems and how much energy these systems are producing for the families. Next slide, please. Okay, Brian.
So thank you, Lisa. So what in the next few slides, I want to go through some of the phases of our project. The first phase of our project was what we call the SASH 1 project. Through the California SASH program, GRID is the preferred provider for the nonprofit that tribes and low-income communities in California work with. The SASH 1 was the first rollout of that incentive where there was no match, as we say. It paid for basically most of the whole project. We were able to do about 62 of those projects. This is a picture of our first build right here. We had the mayor and the chairman here and tribal council and our TIPA board, and it was a great day to have that first project out there. We completed a little over 200 kilowatts of install. Next slide, please. Then along came SASH 2, which in California meant that 50% of the California incentive could be used. The other 50% would have to be matched. Fortunately, we found a great solution and a willing partner with U.S. Department of Energy, Office of Indian Energy, that funded 22 additional systems. And we were able to bring in some in-kind through the labor that we provided with the workforce trainees, and completed those 22. Next slide. As Lisa was talking about, there's a process that goes through with interconnection and warranty, and then final reports after the amount of offset of the electrical is generated, offsetting the total bill is completed. Next slide. The next phase we completed, this is the same phase here, the 22, which brought us to 84 units. Next slide. I'm just going to run through these a little fast here. Phase 2 came along where we did 34 homes, and this was through another Department of Energy grant opportunity where we were able to leverage 50%. This is a picture of our cultural museum here during our Earth Day. We had Chris Duchesne of Office of Indian Energy visited us, and that was a really nice and pleasant surprise for him to come out and celebrate with us the completion of that project. Next slide. And then finally, we rolled into phase 2, where we were able to apply for and receive another funding agreement that would bring us up to 118 running total builds. Next slide. And then we were able to apply for a grant, and were awarded a grant to do solar youth training three-phase project where we took 8 interns in Bishop. They installed 2 homes. Next picture. Next slide. On a tribal home here in Bishop. Next slide. And then from those 8 interns, 3 of the interns that really worked well in the project were offered 3 internships in Riverside for the summer, and so they moved away from home for the summer and worked on rooftops, all sorts of different job situations in Riverside. After the 3 months,
you have 5 minutes remaining.
thank you. Completion of that phase, 1 intern was Kenyon Martinez, who's pictured in the below right, was offered a 1-year solar fellowship working in Riverside. Since we started our project, we've trained over 60 tribal members, I think about 2,600 hours. Some of these members have gone on to do either work in the solar field, like Canyon, or to do some temporary work locally, or to work with the solar subcontractors with Grid to get a little bit more vested and a little more interest and a little more experience in the. So here's a picture of where we've come so far. At the very bottom, we've completed 163 to date. Next slide. And then we have one more project right now that has been funded that has not yet been started. 18 more builds that should bring us up to about 182 mid-year next year. Our cumulative carbon reduced has been about 8,000 tons. Next slide, please. And we've, as you see here at the bottom, here's a total finalization of where we are so far. We've completed 182 homes, close to our target of 200 homes. We're not quite making it this year, but it's 613 kilowatts, so we'll take it, and we're really glad that, and I think the families are glad that we've decided to do this. So I really appreciate having the time to talk to you all today. Next slide. Here's if you have any questions, Lisa and my contact information are down there below. Thank you for taking the time to check us out today. Thanks a lot. Bye now.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Lisa. And I also want to thank you for all the other presenters, Jesse, Deb, Terry, for your time and willingness to share your stories with us today. Next, I will pass the floor over, or maybe the virtual mic, I should say, over to James Jensen. James is the contractor to the office, and besides being an excellent project monitor, which I can attest to on some of your projects, he has also been instrumental in bringing our monthly webinars for many years. James will moderate the questions, so please type them into the chat function when you have them. James, over to you. James, are you there?
Thank you. Sorry, it was slow to unmute me. The system might be running slow for others. We have had some people mention slides are advancing slowly, and that's just the nature of GoToWebinar sometimes. And so we apologize if that's a problem you've been experiencing. But yeah, let's jump into the questions. So we have a fair bit of time left for questions. So feel free to submit any that have not yet been submitted, but we'll jump into the ones we have now. At the fish hatchery, the solar is providing significant cost savings, it sounds like, which is great. Is that allowing you to raise any more fish, or what's the material impact of those cost savings at the fish hatchery?
Yeah, that's a great question. And The cost savings would allow us to raise more fish. Kind of another project that we're working on now is trying to get a recirculating aquaculture system for our facility. The water that we get for the hatchery, we're limited by the amount of water we can divert from our surface source, Rowdy Creek. So the last couple of years, we've kind of had dry winters here in Northwestern California. And so as a precautionary measure, we've been raising less fish. The savings that we have realized from the solar, though, have definitely led to a little bit more flexibility in our budget. You know, being a private nonprofit, we have to make every dollar count. And most of our money coming in is through fundraisers, which, you know, in this COVID time have been basically eliminated. So it's gave us a little bit of breathing room, but hopefully moving forward, if we're able to get the recirculating aquaculture system put in, which would basically allow us to reuse the water that we're diverting from our Rowdy Creek, that could absolutely lead to us rearing more fish at the hatchery.
Great, thanks, Jesse. Question here for the Fort Peck Tribal Wellness Center. You talked about roof mount solar being the path forward for solar, and you touched on potentially eventually doing solar carports. What is the, sorry for the dog in the background, got a puppy, hard to control. What is the next step to pursue the solar carport systems? Is it finding funding, or do you have any hurdles to pursue that project?
Excuse me, my mute was slow to come off there. You know, we looked at that initially as a concept of being able to generate enough energy that we could put some back onto the grid. And we found that the power company has some limitations there. And, you know, given that, we basically just stopped looking at that side of things. But I think there's certainly an opportunity to come back to that in the future and so forth. Our focus really was on developing enough solar on the building rooftop to supplement use within the facilities. And then we've since come back in a bit of a rethink of the wellness concepts, given the COVID and all of the wellness effects that go with that we've generated an addition to the building for a natural gas fired emergency power generator, so that now this facility can serve a much broader function in the community, particularly during a pandemic of such, and has the facilities for being able to impact a lot of folks within the community. So that's kind of where we focused a lot of our time since the project was bid and going forward. But yeah, I think the idea of future solar on the site makes perfect sense, and I hope that someday they can focus and get that in. It would take some additional funding as well. So
thanks, Terry. A question for the Bishop Paiute residential solar program. What percentage of the homes on the reservation that would qualify, you know, under the low income restrictions have been served at this point, or will have been served at the completion of the project?
Well, I could try to answer that. That's a good question. We figured about 400 homes out of the 600 that we have will probably be able to eventually be served by the low income program. It's also a combination of some homes having the type of roofs on their homes, the type of condition the roofs are in. So that 400 out of the 600 includes that. So if you look at just the 400, we've gone, we're about 80%, or about actually 80% of our goal, or about 40% of our of that 400 right now. If that makes sense. Thanks.
Follow up, Brian, for your project there. It's great, all the job training that's been done, and you touched on one intern that has a ongoing job in Riverside. Do you have any idea of the percentage of the other trainees that are still involved in solar in some way?
There's roughly, we do keep we try to keep tabs on the past trainees with our Tribal Employment Rights Office, because there's really very few jobs in our region for solar, other than a couple small solar firms. The jobs tend to be pretty ephemeral, and so the only statistic I have is I think we've had about three individuals that have received some long-term kind of gig type work post our project, and we've had substantially more jobs, even more ephemeral jobs, with our SPP project that is kind of an extension of our project, where the trainees that come through in volunteer phase are offered starting wage jobs to complete the rest of our project. But all those projects have been completed. The next project we hope to start will be next summer, which we will have about 20 jobs, or 20 homes, out of which probably about 16 of those will be available to have some sort of a gig type SPP kind of a paid job apprentice work.
Thanks, Ryan. A question for Jesse and the fish hatchery project. Can you elaborate, or did you have any challenges related to permitting at the site, given the proximity to Rowdy Creek and maybe the sensitive nature of operations at a fish hatchery?
Well, I can't really speak to the permitting part of it. That work took place before I started with the Tolowa Dee-ni back in June. My impression that I got from my supervisor was that the process went fairly smoothly, and that our contractor, Greenwired Consulting, dealt with the majority of that process. And so, no, I don't think we faced any unique challenges presented by our location, or kind of by what we're doing on the property there, raising fish. The only real difficulty, I guess, was siting in those numbers of panels, on it's a roughly 3-acre parcel that has a lot of outbuildings, like that schematic shows you. It's kind of there wasn't a lot of room, so they got creative and did a great job in getting in that, the panel arrays that we ended up getting.
Thanks, Jesse. I have one last question here, so if anyone has any out there, please send it in. We got a little bit of time remaining, but last question as of now is on the Fort Peck project. It's quite a building. It's amazing, really. What was the main source of funding for the rec center, or the wellness center?
This is Deb. So the main source of funding is actually tribal funds that they had set aside. So the main source, I think the total is closer to $19 million now. But a big chunk of that was some funding. We got land buyback money from the Cabell settlement, and the tribes banked some of that, and some they used for economic development. And so they made an effort to set aside some of that money for this particular structure. So that's where some of it's coming from. We also have a tax credit funding for this project. And then it'll be a loan for HPDP for that sort of patient visit wellness center section. So they'll be able to help finance that with the funds they get from their Medicare reimbursement contract.
Great, thanks, Deb.
You bet.
With that, we have no further questions at this time, so I'm going to pass it back to Lizana to wrap up our session. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, James. And thank you for everybody that's joined the session and for presenters. You know, we really appreciate folks, you know, willingness to share. So this is going to conclude this session of the program review. If you're attending the next session, you'll need to call in and access via the link for that particular session. And I do know that for those who wanted to participate in the entire program review, that added some complexity to registering 10 or 11 times or whatever it is. But we do apologize. This is the first and maybe hopefully the only time, because we hope we'll be back doing this in person in the future. But you'll need to, again, access with the registration for session 5, and we will start that at 1:10. So you have a few minutes in between. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, again. Goodbye.